What is up, guys? This is John, aka Pokemon, and today I'm finally going to be unveiling the real Pokemon of the Year rankings for 2020. And what I mean by that is I've had way too much free time on my hands recently, and I decided to go through every Pokemon generation and rank my top 30 favorite Pokemon, and then compare them to the real rankings you guys have been talking all about. And to go along with this, I even made a follow-up video on my second channel that should be live now, using a favorite Pokemon picking website to see if it could get everything I picked right, as I felt like that would be fun. I've been playing Pokemon for so many years. Making this list was actually incredibly difficult, as I love Pokemon for so many reasons. You know, the first look at their design when I saw them initially, you know, how some of these designs have grown on me. I've used Pokemon in playthroughs for fun, in series, I've used them competitively, in draft leagues just for fun, in different generations, and it's honestly something that's changed a lot over the years, and honestly it will continue to change as time moves on. But that's enough of that. Let's get right on into the actual list, starting with Kanto. Considering that I was introduced to Pokemon with Pokemon Yellow and spent so many years playing Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Stadium, and then going through Kanto once again in Pokemon Gold, this is a Pokedex that is very near and dear to my heart. There are so many Pokemon I absolutely love in Kanto, and I had a really tough time actually making these rankings. It's something that's changed over the years many times. It'll change in the future as well, and I would actually have a really hard time replicating this top 30, especially for Kanto, if you ask me to do it again tomorrow. But I did my best, and let's look at the rankings, starting with Machamp at number 1. That's probably the only one that will always remain the same. It's been that way for quite some time, but actually in the past it used to be Hitmonchan with Kabutops number 2. Now this is, when I say back in the past, I mean when I was like 6, 7, those were my two favorites. It didn't last too long. I do still love those two Pokemon, but I quickly realized Machamp, at least for me, is the superior fighting type in this generation, and it was my first level 100 Pokemon, something I always loved using. And in a similar note, Nidoking, it's something I love using even now competitively, but I remember in Pokemon Yellow, every time I played through the game, I didn't know how to beat Brock with just a Pikachu. You know, I couldn't get a Squirtle or, you know, a Bulbasaur as a starter to start because it's Pokemon Yellow. You get a Pikachu. They're like, screw you, kid. Good luck against the ground guy. I don't know what you're really going to do there. He's got Geodude and Onix. Figure it out. Well, I figured it out. And the way I figured it out is I got a Nidoran male. I leveled it up until it learned Double Kick. I beat Brock. It would become a Nidorino pretty quickly. And then when I got a Moonstone, you know, very quickly after that, boom, we have a Nidoking immediately. And I always thought it was so cool to have a fully evolved Pokemon that early into the game. Next up, we see Alakazam, and this is a Pokemon that has steadily risen on this list, you know, over the past few years for a lot of reasons. When I was a kid, I just love all of the Trait Evolution Pokemon, and you see, I'm pretty sure all of them on this list. And Alakazam definitely was my second favorite of the bunch, but it was also my favorite figurine I had as a kid. For whatever reason, I just really love this Alakazam figurine. It was just my favorite Pokemon one to display, you know, play with if I was doing any imaginary things when I was younger with the figurines, battling with them. And, you know, I became really attached to it, and once I got into competitive Pokemon, Alakazam became one of my favorite Pokemon to use competitively, which is really cool. Cloyster, kind of a similar thing. I always loved it back in the day. I really love using the Shell Smash Cloyster, and, you know, those two have just both steadily risen. They're in the top 5. They'll probably stay there for quite some time, if not forever. And after that, things get a little bit easier to explain. Machop, something that I've caught so many times so I can get a Machamp eventually, and you don't always have a chance to evolve the Machop because you need to trade with someone. So I've had many Machops on my team. Charizard, my favorite starter. I think my favorite starter in this region, I should say. I think a lot of people love Charizard. I know it's something that's, you know, seen so many times. People kind of hate it at this point. It's overused, so it's maybe even overhated, but I mean, there's a reason you see it all over the place. I love Charizard, and so many other people do. Nidoqueen, a Pokemon that I really just love because of competitive reasons. Jolteon, a Pokemon that I really love competitively. Primeape, actually a Pokemon just because I played the beginning of Pokemon Yellow so many times over and over again. I always try to catch a Mankey, wanted to get a Primeape, and you'd think, well, why did you do the Nidorino strategy if you just got the fighting type? I don't know, I was like 6. I was very dumb and bad at Pokemon, but I liked both of the Pokemon, so That's a reason. And honestly, I never really got a lot of Primeapes or didn't evolve to make it into Primeape often, so I saw this thing more in other people's games or in Pokemon cards, and I really wanted one, so I don't know, I just became kind of, really fascinated and just love this Pokemon in general. Zapdos, easily my favorite, legendary in these games. Always caught it in Pokemon Yellow, my favorite one to use competitively. The reason I'm on, Instinct and Pokemon Go, that was a slam dunk to be on this list. And after that, there's not really anything that truly stands out. I think Electrode is a recent riser to make it onto this list, as I really enjoyed using that in draft leagues. That's been a bunch of fun. And then Arbok is something that I really loved using back in like 6th gen, PU, like a really low tier, in Smogon tiers. And I don't know, I just fell in love with using that Pokemon, and that was a bunch of fun. Now, comparing these to the actual rankings, we see that I was pretty off when it comes to Kanto. Now, I was a little bit better with a few of the other generations, but boy, did the general public, they don't agree with me at all. Now, in my top 6, we have 2 of the Pokemon up there. Nidoking ranked a little bit less high for a few other people, which honestly shocked me. I thought people really loved Nidoking. Maybe that's me in an echo chamber with a few of my friends, but I'm kind of surprised Nidoking is only 20, but still on the list. Charizard number 1, not surprising. Charmander up there, not surprising as well. And Evolution being up there, I know that's actually very beloved. Gengar, I was a little shocked. I didn't know he was that beloved, but I mean, I like Gengar too. It doesn't shock me too much. Any starter was going to be on here, and Arcanine makes a lot of sense. I don't know if there's any Pokemon here I was shocked not to see. Zapdos, maybe, but it is the least favorite of the, the 3 legendaries for most people. I definitely saw that in Pokemon Go, which is dumb. You guys are all dumb. It's the best of the 3 legendaries. I'm not going to budge from that stance. It's just actually true. And Scyther's pretty sick. I was surprised people didn't really love that, but and Gyarados, actually. I'm very surprised with that, but I kind of have some weird choices here. Whatever. We'll move on and see if I do better in Johto. Now, this list was a lot easier for me to make than it was to make the Kanto list, which is a little bit surprising considering that I played, this generation so many years ago and things have changed a lot since then. But this was a dex that was a lot smaller. There are a few things like the baby forms that I could throw out right away as I didn't really like them. And really, Johto kind of has a terrible dex. So, I mean, it's just whatever Pokemon I got attached to. And as you can see in the front, there's a few bad Pokemon that I've become very attached to, but Phanpy, I love elephants, so I've just always loved Phanpy. If you've been on the channel for a while, that's not surprising at all. And Swinub, Mamoswine's my favorite Pokemon, so I've become very attached to Swinub. And I really love Swinub and Piloswine in these games, but especially since Mamoswine has been created, I really love those mons even more. Dunsparce, I can't really explain that one. I've become really attached to Dunsparce. I actually have the sitting cutie of Dunsparce right there. I did it. I did the old pointy thing. So I have that. I also have one of Gligar, which is up there. I just genuinely love those Pokemon. I mean, I bought plushies of them, so I don't know. If you're questioning me, I don't know. I just do. They're on the shelves, and that's where they'll stay. For Alligator and Typhlosion, I really couldn't pick between these 2 starters. It's the one generation where I have favorite starters, or like tied favorite starters. Every time I played, Gold, it'd be for Alligator, Typhlosion. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I mean, I really do love Cyndaquil and Totodile as well. I think I love the, evolutions a little bit more, but it's a tie between the 2, and as you can see, when I made this list, I put for Alligator before Typhlosion, and then I put, Cyndaquil before Totodile, so I'm really undecided. I don't really know where I lean, and it's going to be different probably every time you ask me, because I just love both of them. Donphan goes with the Swinub, and Raikou's kind of like Zapdos. It's just one, I didn't get it often when I played this game, but competitively, my god, do I love using, Raikou. I think that just kind of says more about me liking electric types. Fire types, ice types, I'm not a big fan of Pokemon that are weak to Stealth Rocks competitively. Thankfully, we have heavy duty boots now, and I do like the other, legendary dogs in this generation. A lot more than I like Moltres and Articuno, but you also don't see the other ones beyond, Entei sneaking in at the end, but I really love Raikou, just competitively especially. Yanma and Quillfish, 2 more of the kind of weaker Pokemon. At least we got an evolution for Yanma eventually, but I don't know, in these games, Quillfish and Yanma and Dunsparce and Gligar, like these Pokemon felt so rare and it was so exciting to get them as a kid. So I became really attached to them. I desperately want an evolution for Quillfish, desperately want an evolution for Dunsparce. Probably will never happen, but we'll see. I don't know who doesn't like Tyranitar. I love frogs, so we got Politoed there. Lantern, another one of those, kind of weaker Pokemon I've become really attached to over the years. One of my good friends, as I started YouTube, really loved Lantern and really helped me just love this Pokemon. Even though it's not the best competitively, I love trying to make it, work when I do play it. Spinarak, another one of those, weaker Pokemon that I love because I always wanted it on my team. When I played through the games, I had Pokemon Gold, became really attached to Ho-Oh, and after that, I don't know if there's anything that really stands out that I need to, point out and talk too much about. Maybe Porygon 2, a Pokemon, one of the first Pokemon I really love using competitively, as I got into it, and then Granbull, once it got Fairy typing, was actually a lot of fun to use, so that was another cool Pokemon. But seeing how I did compared to, the real rankings, we go over here, and it's kind of a mixed bag. A little bit better than Kanto, but none of my early picks are ones anyone else agreed with. And the thing that really shocks me is Raikou. I mean, why doesn't anyone like the electric legendaries? Is it just me? Honestly, actually, it might just be me. I think I'm learning now that it's only me. Other people don't like those guys. But you know what? That one surprised me a lot. I don't know if anything else on this list really shocked me not being in the top 30. Again, it's a smaller generation. It was kind of easier to pick them. Actually, yes. Ampharos not being one of the top 30 is unbelievably surprising. We got the mega form of it, but when I played Pokemon Gold, I had a handbook that basically told me, you will not beat this game if you don't get an Ampharos Dum-Dum. It was just always kind of known when you played those Gen 2 games, you needed an Ampharos on your team. One of the only, reliable early route Pokemon you could get that would be good. I mean, you could get a Dunsparce, but I don't know how much that's going to help you. I mean, you could get a Jumpluff, I guess, but do you really want a Jumpluff? Probably not. So Ampharos was on so many teams. So I don't know, I feel a little bit shocked with that, but I mean, the top one seeing, Scizor and Tyranitar, Cyndaquil and Totodile, not really too shocking. I will say, the final note I have on Johto, seeing Typhlosion so high and then, freaking Feraligatr so low, or at least a lot lower than it, that's a little bit weird that we go Typhlosion, Cyndaquil, Totodile, Feraligatr. Didn't see that coming. I don't really know what's going on there, but at least they're both in the top 30. Now moving on, we find a generation that people absolutely adore, and honestly, this might be the #1 generation just in terms of how popular it is. It's not my favorite generation, it definitely does not have my favorite Pokemon in it, but if there was going to be a generation where people really hated my opinions, it's probably going to be this one, so let's just jump right on into it. And immediately, you're probably like, oh, that's fine, Rayquaza. I mean, who doesn't like Rayquaza? Good choice, #1. #2, the Steel Dino. That's pretty sick. I mean, come on, Aggron's pretty cool. Everyone likes Aggron. But 3, Pelipper. What are we talking about here? Now, I'm with you. I didn't like Pelipper as a kid in any way, shape, or form. But as I got older and I started to, get Pokemon a little bit more and actually be able to beat the games, I realized Pelipper was a fantastic Pokemon within the game because it could have so many different HMs that were so freaking useful. So I started to use it more on my teams. And then when I started doing YouTube stuff, this is actually a really big part of YouTube. Me and Numb Nexus had, a long running joke of Scarf God, the Pelipper. We did some series together. Eventually, this is a Pokemon that actually got Drizzle. We wanted it to get Drizzle for so long. It got it. Now it's good competitively. We used it jokingly in series, used it jokingly competitive. Now it's actually a good Pokemon competitively speaking. It's had quite the glow up and it's really risen on the list. Now, seeing Pelipper at #3, the reason it's #3 is not because I love it so much, but really because I don't care too much about this Pokedex. If I really love Pokemon, if we go back to Kanto, Pelipper being something I used, on YouTube a bunch, they would have no chance to go up the ranks as much as it has. There's so many Pokemon I love there. Here, I don't know, I'm just not super attached to a lot of things. Now, I love Spheal. I think it's probably the most adorable Pokemon out there, if not top 3, one of the most adorable things. I love Trico. That was just a starter I really loved. I liked lizards and, frogs when I was younger. I liked catching them, so I always liked Trico. I thought Lotad was unbelievably adorable and very, very cute. Another one of those. Sceptile goes with the Trico. Blaziken, I actually liked using, Trico and then Sceptile were my favorite starters, but I did like using Blaziken every once in a while, so I had a lot of runs where I used Blaziken, really loved that, and I'm originally from Arizona, so I love the cactus Pokemon. After that, I mean, cool pseudo legendary, cool box art legendary, cool pseudo legendary, cool little baby rock dino, and after that, we could probably get rid of the rest of these Pokemon, and they're really not that important to me. Like Seviper, I like snakes. I always thought that was kind of cool. I knew it wasn't good, but I was like, this is kind of cool. Sharks, I like sharks. They kind of, I just like sharks, so Sharpedo. Sableye. stinks. I hated using this thing. Like, I always wanted to use it in Sapphire, but then I hated how bad it was to use in Sapphire. But every time I played, I thought it was a cool Pokemon. I loved everything about it, and I wanted to use it, but I could never use it, so it's at this weird spot, like in the middle of this list, where I truly love the Pokemon, but it just let me down so constantly. You know, Crawdon, for whatever reason, I got one to level 100 a while ago. Melodic, I hated going against it competitively, eventually started using it myself, started to love it. And after that, I don't know, I don't really have any big things to say about this list. Relincanth is kind of cool. I feel like that's really underrated, but I mean, if we look at what the actual rankings are, I mean, after that, people don't really agree with me, and that's completely fine. I mean, Rayquaza being 1-1, I got that correct, which is pretty cool. You know, Aggron, I'm actually happy that it's ranked 14. I'm happy, you know, a lot of people appreciate it, because I think it's an incredible mon. Very, very cool. 2 starters are incredible. Not having Mudkip definitely hurts this list. I bet that thing's like 2 or 3 if I had to guess. Who knows? But it's definitely high up there. You gotta have the pseudo-legendaries, gotta have the, you know, the box art legendary. And I am happy to see the Sableye up there. You know, that's a Pokemon I always really loved. I always was a little disillusioned every time I tried to use it, just like, oh, why isn't this thing better? Why isn't it more fun to use in-game? But happy it's still high on the list. And then Flygon's one that it's ranked a lot higher than I thought it would, but I think that's just the competitive player in me. You know, it used to be the U-turn mon, This thing stinks. All it does is have Choice Scarf and U-turn. So I've heard so many people badmouth it that I've kind of forgotten how much, you know, how much of a beloved Pokemon it is. But it's nice to see that and to remember that this is truly a Pokemon people love. But speaking of things people love, it's on to Sinnoh, my favorite generation. And while I say this is my favorite generation, that doesn't mean it's my favorite grouping of Pokemon out there, as I really don't love a lot of the new Pokemon they threw in the Sinnoh, but thankfully we got a bunch of evolutions to older Pokemon, and we had a few key standouts that really make this top 30 a pretty strong list for me, but man, after 30, it really tanks. But hey, we're only doing 30, that's all that matters, and my 1 through 6 is unbelievably strong. Honestly, 1 through 10 for me, I absolutely adore these Pokemon. Mamoswine is my absolute favorite. You can't play through a Gen 4 game without Luxray and Staraptor, and I think they are the best early route Pokemon of all time. My favorite early route combination. Luxray is such a freaking cool Pokemon to find immediately, and Staraptor is such a cool, such a powerful early, you know, route bird. I love those two. Infernape, you had to use in those games. A really cool starter, a really great starter competitively in-game. Love that thing to pieces. Garchomp is maybe the coolest pseudo-legendary. I mean, there's a lot of pseudo-legendaries I love, but I've always loved Garchomp. So cool to go against it in Cynthia, you know, against Cynthia or with Cynthia. I don't know. Lucario, always love Lucario. I think it's Riley. I don't know. The trainer that had the Lucario or gave you the Riolu, I always thought he was pretty cool. So those two together, very awesome. Made me love Lucario. And then we get into the evolutions. Honchkrow is sick, Gliscor is sick, Yanmega is sick, Roserade is sick, and then, you know, Shinx is pretty cute. After that, I mean, I really love the Distortion World and Platinum, and Giratina and everything that went into that was pretty cool. We got a bunch more of the evolutions. The things that stand out, Dialga, I don't usually love legendaries a ton, but I always played against my sister. We battled back and forth. She had Palkia, I had Dialga, so I became decently attached with that. Rampardos, I mean, I just love dinosaurs as a kid. Carnivine kind of goes with my love of kind of some of the worst Pokemon, or like the, you know, not as good, non-evolving Pokemon like Dunsparce, so I thought Carnivine was cool. That was just something that stood out to me. And after that, no, it's mostly just the evolutions, and then you kind of the odd, like, decently cool Pokemon. And actually Hippotas, that one's kind of a, you know, an interesting different one. The first time I was ever good, at least, you know, ranked good anywhere competitively speaking Pokemon wise, it was a team that featured a Hippotas early into Gen 5 UU, so I just became really attached to that Pokemon. I'm really like thankful of that Pokemon for helping me get good at battling. So I don't know, that's just a Pokemon that I'm still decently attached to. And maybe it should have been Hippowdon, but Hippotas, just all those years ago, that was the one I had to use because Hippowdon was broken, or not broken, but banned. But either way, going into the rankings that other people had, they agree with my top 10, and that's all that matters to me. Luxray being number 3 honestly shocked me because you don't see Luxray in any of the regular Pokemon games. It's never in the regular dexes. You know, it's in national dexes of some games, obviously, not the most recent one, but like, you never get to catch a Luxray anymore, or Shinx anymore, which makes me so sad. I love Luxray, so I'm happy other people love it. Maybe, you know, this love will spur Pokemon to actually put in the next games or put in one of the DLCs. That would make me very happy. But then, you know, everything but Mamoswine, which really breaks my heart, but the other 5 being, you know, ranked so highly, and beyond Staraptor, the other 4 being in the top 5 themselves, very, very cool. So I'm pretty on point with those, which was pretty awesome to see. Gliscor ranking high is very cool. Roserade being below Gliscor honestly shocked me. I thought more people would like Roserade than they do, but still ranked, that's all that matters. Glade, I mean, that's just another sick Pokemon. And most of the evolutions are really, really cool and going to be ranked high on this list. And I don't really think there's any shockers beyond that, yeah. Gen 4, kind of a bad dex, a lot of cool evolutions, like very top heavy with my list. I mean, those are the Pokemon I love. They're ranked high. And then after that, some legendaries and then some evolutions. Nothing really else there, but maybe my favorite grouping of Pokemon next, or yet, let's next go into Unova. That is not Unova. Now, before I get into the actual list for Unova, I think it's important to say that I actually was a Pokemon content creator on YouTube at this point. I actually started making content a little bit after seeing Korokoro scans for a few of the first revealed Pokemon in Gen 5. I remember vividly seeing Excadrill, the starters, and Haxorus, and it was around that time, you know, I got into YouTube. So for pretty much the entirety of Generation 5, I was making content, and it really blends together, especially when you start looking at the list of Pokemon. You know, I can tie almost all of these, you know, Pokemon back into a certain Let's Play, or just battling on my own for fun on Showdown, battling in videos, or like Draft League stuff. Especially when you look at the top 3 Pokemon, these are the perfect combination. Reuniclus, I love it for, you know, a variety of reasons. Just love the design, love using it in-game, but the big reason I love it is using it in Draft League and just using it, you know, competitively in general. Number 2, Crocodile, I've used it competitively, I've loved it, I've used it in Draft League and enjoyed it there, but more than anything, I just love the design and fell in love with it when I played in the game. And Golurk is a combination of the two. I've used it competitively. I love the design. It's a Pokemon that my girlfriend actually loves a lot, and it's something that we both kind of, you know, shared a love for. It's actually, you know, in my wallpaper background on my computer. It's a really cool, you know, image of this thing fighting for alligators. So those 3 have a little bit of an element of, I love the design, loved using them in game, but definitely some competitive elements as well. And as we go through the rest of this list, you can really pick any of these out, and it's going to be a similar story. I mean, Terrakion, big reason I love that. Draft League, it was on the first Draft League team I had, made it to the championship. It was the best Pokemon on my team. People wanted to ban Terrakion from the league because I've used it so well. After that, it wasn't even close to getting banned. People barely used them on. It was just a really, really cool thing to use it. Chandelure, love the design, loved using it in, you know, UU in Gen 5. Mienshao, same thing, UU. Haxorus, loved just the design. Galvantula, you know, Draft League, the Pelipper's early in the days. Bahium, love the design. My friend Fufu actually loves this Pokemon a lot. He's one of my best friends, so I've kind of loved it more and more because of that. And you can just kind of go through all of these, and it's pretty, you know, pretty standard, kind of the same thing. Now, a few of the things that really stand out above the rest. Scrafty, that at one point was the channel mascot. Now, there was a thing on YouTube where you could do YouTube like shows, and I made a series around Scrafty where the goal was to ladder with a team into the top 10 in OU is Scrafty, UU is Scrafty, and then with Scraggy in RU, NU, and Little Cup. Or maybe Scrafty and RU as well. I don't remember exactly at this point. I never finished the series. I don't think people really enjoyed it as, you know, as much as I thought people would. But it was a really cool concept. It became my channel mascot, you know, as I was doing that series. And at the same time, a Hoodlum Scrafty was beginning his channel. And we actually had the same amount of subscribers at the same point, both being Scrafty mascots. He blew up ahead of me. His content was way better than mine back then. I mean, he's incredible now, and he was incredible back then. But I think that was just kind of a fun thing to note. Scrafty was actually my mascot, and it's just funny to think back, me and Callum had the same mascot at one point. Haxorus was actually my first channel mascot, I think. My first, like when I first started this Pokemon stuff, it was at first a forum, and Rayquaza was the mascot, but as, you know, I got the YouTube channel going, Haxorus was a mascot for a little bit, so that was funny. And beyond that, I don't know if anything else truly stands out from this list, but what I really like is when we look at what, you know, everyone else picked. I am completely spot on with the starters. Superior, the superior starter. I have that first. I honestly might have been able to rank that a little bit higher, but man, I say that, but I love all the Pokemon in front of it so much. From Reuniclus to, Scavalier. I love those mons for so many reasons. Scrafty is a special place in my heart. And then Superior, I think it fits perfectly there. Samurott, I actually liked using this thing competitively. I don't know if I've ever played through the game with it. I don't like Oshawott or Dewott at all, but I like Samurott. I think it's a pretty cool Pokemon. And Emboar, I hated at first. We got our third firefighting starter in a row. Wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I started to like it more and more competitively as time went on. So it's cool to see, I have that right. Seeing Golurk at 29 makes me so happy. Seeing my top 3 on the list at all makes me really, really happy. I didn't know Reuniclus was going to be that high. I expected Crocodile to be that high because it's awesome. It's sick. But Golurk being that high is really, really cool. And other things that surprised me, Excadrill not being higher is honestly kind of shocking to me. I thought that was a Pokemon that was a lot more, beloved than it truly is. But beyond that, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's anything that really stands out shocking one way or the other here. I definitely have I feel like almost, maybe like a third of the Pokemon I picked are in the top 30, and that's pretty decent. I mean, it could be a little bit worse. Ferrothorn, you see it everywhere because it's competitive, but I feel like people are probably sick of it. But I will say, when we first got these games and I first started playing, I thought Ferrothorn was one of the coolest Pokemon we ever saw. It was so unique. It was so powerful, so tough to stop. But I feel like people probably are more annoyed with it than anything else. But and I feel like Electros, that was such a cool freaking Pokemon when we first found it in the caves. Electric type, no weaknesses because it has Levitate. I thought that was super, super cool. But I mean, there's always going to be some mons I love that not everyone in the world likes, and maybe Electros is number 31, who knows. Either way, we gotta move on to the next generation where I was very much a full-time, maybe not a full-time content creator, but fully making a lot of content, and that is, of course, Kalos. It's been on the screen for a bit. I'm just rambling. And for that reason, let's just get right on into my actual list. And this is actually kind of an interesting generation for me, as I remember being incredibly disappointed with the lack of new Pokemon in this gen. Now, obviously, we did get Mega Evolutions. I don't really love Mega Evolutions, so even if I was going to consider them separate Pokemon to put on this list, I wouldn't. I just didn't really like them that much. I do remember seeing a fake Pokedex leak that a lot of people believed at the time, and it was like 150 Pokemon. I had a Dachshund Pokemon. I just was so in love with that, and I don't know. The actual Pokedex was a little disappointing, but my top 10 of these, I truly, truly love. Aegislash, easily one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. I think it's one of the coolest designed Pokemon ever. Everything about it is so unbelievably cool. I know some people don't love it as much as I feel like it should be loved just because it's so broken competitively and annoying to face. But if you just take competitive out of it, everything about this mon I just truly, truly love. And if you bring the competitive back in, it's fun to use. As long as you're not going against it, it's a fun mon to use. Goodra, I actually didn't like at first, but I, really warmed up to it and slowly fell in love with this mon. I think it's adorable at this point. I think it's fun. I was a little upset at first that it's just pure dragon typing. It doesn't have dragon poison would have been cool in my mind. Obviously, we have Dragalge, later on, but I don't know. I feel like it would have been cool to have the pseudo be some sort of dual typing, but I really like the stats. I really like how this mon works, and it's something I love using competitively. So that thing is something I've fallen in love with. Greninja, one of the coolest starters we've gotten by a significant margin. Sylveon's actually my favorite evolution at this point, and I didn't think it would be my favorite, but new fairy typing, really powerful, really cool, really strong, and this is just a really surprisingly fun Pokemon to use competitively. Again, at this point, full-on competitive player, you see a lot of that. Tyrantrum, I just love it because I loved dinosaurs. I thought that was sick. Hawlucha, another Pokemon I just think looks really freaking cool. So it's kind of surprising, in Gen 5, a lot of Pokemon tied to competitive. But in this gen, there's some things tied to competitive, but really, Aegislash, it was because of how sick it is, just the design-wise and what it is. Greninja, just loved it, the way it looked as a starter. Tyrantrum, I think it looks cool. Hawlucha just looks cool. Doublade is super cool. Florges, competitive. Diggersby, it's all competitive. But after that, I think a lot more, it comes down to just how the Pokemon looks. Like Go-Go, I just thought it was kind of it's like a fierce looking goat mon. I think it's pretty unique and pretty sweet. Dragalge's a really cool, unique Pokemon. I really, really loved finding that thing. I also like Skrelp. That's more just because instead of saying help, me and Nikki say Skrelp. I don't know. It's not really a good reason, but it's fun to say I need Skrelp. That's all I got. I don't know. It's a terrible reason, but the things really fall off a ledge after 10. I don't know what to tell you. Skrelp's on here because I like saying Skrelp. So after that, maybe you can just ignore the rest of the Mons. I mean, I thought Pangoro was really cool. Dude's got like a cape, and I just thought it was cool to see a panda Pokemon. Talonflame, I got annoyed with competitively, but it's a really cool early route, bird Pokemon. I think the final one we'll talk about because it's realistically, I don't care a ton after that. But Trevenant, I think that's a very underrated, very, very cool mon. But let's get into the actual rankings here. Trevenant, one of the top 30, which makes me happy because I think this mon is so freaking cool design-wise. But my top 6, every one of them within the top 12. And I really think this is a top-heavy generation. Dedenne being number 7 is wild to me. That is outrageous. I don't know what's going on there. But, I think, everyone in the world is spot on with the top 6 that I have. Like, those ones should be at the top. I don't really see anything else on this list that really shocks me or stands out to me. I just think this generation was a little disappointing with new Pokemon. Noivern being number 4... I like Noivern. I think it's a really cool Pokemon. It kind of disappoints me because, one, everything about the Pokemon feels like it would be a sound type Pokemon, and I don't know if we'll ever get a sound typing. This was the generation where there was a ton of rumors and speculation that we'd be getting a new typing. Obviously, we did with Fairy, but it was weird to get Noivern, and I don't know, it feels so noise-based, and there were so many rumors that it would be sound, so it was kind of a letdown. It was just, a flying dragon thing. It's just, we have Salamence, like, we have Dragonite. We've already gotten Flying Dragon, and this is just a much worse Flying Dragon Pokemon, and it's kind of underwhelming in battle. So I like Noivern. There's a lot that I like about it, but 4 in this generation? I don't know. That's a little dicey. I feel like Noivern being number 4 really shows how weak this Dex is overall, but beyond that, I don't know. I feel like Vivillon, I wish that Pokemon was more popular. I wish it was cooler. I love the different designs. I wish I liked it more than I do. I do like it a decent amount, but I wish I tried to collect all the different forms. I wish other people wanted to do that. I think that could have been a really cool thing with it. I wish like every game we got like new really rare forms that were like a big deal to get, but I don't know. It feels like that was a little bit of a flop. It's not even in the top 30 of a Dex that does not have a lot of mons. So I think that might be one of the bigger disappointments for me. But not too much else to say. I think we can move along into one of the more recent generations. Now, this is a generation where not only was I actively making YouTube videos, but I was actively making a lot of YouTube videos leading up to the release of the Generation 7 games, and this is where my channel had its first boom. This is really where I became an established creator, started making decent money, and thought that I could actually do this full time. So all of these Pokemon are very, very entwined with everything I've done YouTube-wise, and honestly, I don't really remember my first playthrough and my first opinions of these Pokemon outside of making content on them, which is a little sad, but getting into the actual list, there's still some Pokemon here that just design-wise, I completely fell in love with. Decidueye, that's my favorite starter of all time by a significant margin. I love everything about Decidueye, and same with Palossand. I love both of these Pokemon just because of the way they look. I don't really use them competitively. I don't really love using them competitively. Decidueye has actually kind of been a little bit of a letdown that way. I like trying to use it, but it rarely does what I want it to do. I just have always loved the way they looked. Rowlet, obviously it's a starter I loved. Guzzlord, I love the way that thing looks. Vikavolt, I think it's one of the coolest early route Pokemon. And actually, kind of interestingly enough, 5 of the 6 Pokemon here, I don't really love for any other reason, just beyond I love the design and I love using them in the game. So maybe I kind of, oversold the way of how intertwined everything was, just with me playing the game. But Mudsdale and Sarina, definitely 2 Pokemon that are on this list because of how much I've loved using them competitively. And I do think Sarina and Mudsdale, well, I didn't actually like Sarina's design when I first saw it. Like, I didn't dislike it. I was just kind of like, that's a Pokemon, I guess. Okay, like, I'm not the biggest fan of the humanoid designs. They're a little bit weird. Sarina's a little bit of an odd Pokemon, but love using that thing competitively. And Mudsdale's a pretty unique, pretty cool Pokemon. I think that's just in general, the design's pretty decent. It's a pretty cool, like, the ground, like, really, sturdy, Horsemon is pretty cool. And boy, is it fun to use competitively. We have the freaking Sports Ball, Passimian Monkey. I love everything about that because, I don't know, I like football. It's just cool. I know it's a rugby monkey, but it looks, you could also think it's like, hey, he's ready to go play linebacker in the NFL. He looks like he's about to snap the ball. He's a little bit skinny for a center, but he can pack on some pounds and figure it out. Komodo, I always wanted a dragon fighting type. I don't love Komodo as much as I wanted to, but I still like it a decent amount. And after that, I don't know if there's anything that really stands out to me a ton in this list. Delmise is a design that I think is unbelievably cool. I haven't really done as much with that Pokemon as I wish I had, but I really do love everything about it. And I wouldn't be shocked if, you know, in the future years, that thing jumped into my top 10 just because I used it more in playthroughs or competitively. And I actually really love Zeraora and Marshadow. I didn't actually get either of them in my games. I wish I did. I wish I put more of a priority of, you know, whatever event there was to get them. If there even was, I assume both are released at this point, but I don't know what's wrong with me. I like both of them. I don't know why I didn't get them in the game, but I do really love both those mons. I think they could also shoot up if I use them a little bit more. And I do think Kamala, I think that's a really, really cute mon. That is something that I think I should like it a little bit more. I think that's another one I could shoot up. But the thing with this generation, there's just a lot of mons where I was so focused on making content rather than playing the game. There's some things that I just kind of need more time to play with, you know, more time to have on my teams. And I think I think this generation could definitely change a decent amount. But looking at the opinions of everybody, they're actually kind of similar to mine. And I think the big reason for that is I don't have as many unique memories with this generation as I would like. There are a few Pokemon that stand out that I absolutely love that, you know, other people don't. You know, the Sandygast, Palossand, you know, family. I thought people might like them a little bit more. That might just be me. Guzzlord, I know I'm one of the only people on the Guzzlord bandwagon. I love Guzzlord, but he's not that, you know, super popular there. Crabrawler, I really, really love seeing that guy. Delmise, we just talked about. Tapu Fini is all competitive, but like Drampa and Kamala, like I thought people would like those. Drampa, he's a fun old dragon guy. What's going on there? And Kamala, it's a koala. We always wanted one of those. Come on, I don't understand it. Other surprises here. I think Type Null not being on the list and Silvally being 14 is a little weird. It's not shocking, but I don't know. I kind of thought Type Null would at least be up there. Mimikyu 1 makes sense, and Decidueye and Rowlet, you know, 2, 3, that makes a lot of sense. Sarina 20 is actually a little shocking. I thought that was more a mon that I only liked competitively speaking, but I don't know, I guess me liking it competitive gave me a little bit better taste. So hey, you take some and you take some and you lose some of them. Having all of the, I don't know why I said that's so weird. I'm fumbling over my words. It doesn't matter at this point. I've done so many of these, but having all the starters here definitely helps out my list. I know not having them on a lot of the list, you know, hurts not having every single mon I could in the top 30, but I do like all of them. Both of the other two, beyond Decidueye, competitively speaking, Primarina, a Pokemon I feel like got way too much unnecessary hate. I'm happy to see it at 8 because I saw a lot of people hating on it, at least early on, which was weird. I mean, people didn't like that there was a feminine starter. There are so many masculine starters. Like, I don't know. People are weird. People like complaining about things, but I really like Primarina. Very unique, very cool, very fun to use. And Incineroar, once that thing got Intimidate, very fun. Fits my singles playstyle perfectly. I know doubles people very upset with what it did to VGC, but that's not really my lane. So I don't know. For me, I had a bunch of fun with it. But either way, we're moving into the recent generation. It's time for Galar. And this is a generation where my opinions on the Pokemon are truly still forming. I mean, there's a few Pokemon I absolutely love to death, but I really don't know with everything. I haven't had a chance to use every Pokemon in game or even competitively. I mean, there are some Pokemon that beyond catching them for the Pokedex, I've never used once before. But either way, getting into the list, Phalanx, number 1 of my favorite Pokemon of all time, and Caparaja, one of my favorite mons of all time with Kufant right behind it. I love elephants, they're my favorite animal. Getting more elephant Pokemon makes me so happy. The fact that there's even a Pokemon I like more than the new elephant is crazy to me, but Phalanx is so freaking cool. It's got one of my favorite color schemes in the world. The main color, yellow, is my favorite color. Just red and black is incredible. Red, yellow and black. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it goes perfectly with my new logo and color scheme. I mean, everything about it's perfect. It fits with my branding. It fits with things that I love. It is the perfect Pokemon for me. I mean, so the top 3 are so strong, and really, this is another one where, like, the top 10 are really, really strong, you know. Dragapult is one of the coolest pseudo-legendary Pokemon out there. One of the coolest Pokemon we've ever gotten. I feel like it's a Pokemon I truly loved a ton, and it's dipped a little bit of how much I loved it, but I think that will go up. And it's weird to say because it's number 4, but, like, this Pokemon is so cool. I love Sandaconda. I feel like that's just one of the mons that's more like a me Pokemon that I don't know if a ton of other people truly love it, but I love, love, love this Pokemon. Grapploct stinks out loud. It is awful, but I think it's so cool. The color scheme is incredible. It just looks really cool. It's just a really unique, awesome looking Pokemon. I mean, I think this generation has the best designs of any generation. Like, I'm trying to think through. There really aren't many misses in this gen of just designs I dislike. So, honestly, I mean, I could see this list changing up a ton. It might not change at all, but I could see it change a lot, you know, in theory, just because I really don't dislike many of the mons. But man, I don't know. This is just such a cool generation. We have evolutions of mons that I've always wanted. Like, we got a Farfetch'd Evo, which is amazing. A Corsola evolution, which is cool. You know, Frostmoth, a very unique typing. That mon's cool. And then, you know, I'm actually blanking because these mods are so new. The Fire's Centipede, I'm blanking on its name. Centiscorch, I'm almost confident. My God, they're so new. I don't know. I'm all over the place with it. But I don't know. Anything else I need to say about these? That I think the one thing that does stand out of all the mons that are here, Barraskewda, that is one of the coolest early route Pokemon we've ever gotten. I think that mon is really slept on of how cool it is just in the game that you find it so quick. I absolutely love that mon. I thought Dreadnought was going to be my favorite, you know, early route Pokemon, but man, Barraskewda is really, really cool. But getting into the opinions of most people, I feel like this was actually a pretty good you know, grouping. I think I did a decent job with all these. I'm a little sad that Caparaja is not as high as it should be, but beyond that, like I said, Sandaconda, I kind of assumed that people wouldn't like it as much as I did. Thought Phalanx and Ice-Q would be a little bit higher than they are, so that was a little surprising for me. Same with Grimmsnarl, I thought that'd be a little bit higher, honestly, but and Duraliudon, I don't know. It's a weird generation. I think there's just so many cool Pokemon, and Poltegeist. Again, weird generation. I really thought some of these mons would be a little bit higher, but I think it's the perfect generation, honestly, for new Pokemon, for just new fans to get into. I think every person can find a different Pokemon they love in this gen, and you could give me your explanation, I'm going to understand it. I mean, realistically, you can do that with any generation, but if you're going to try and tell me Seaking's your favorite Pokemon, I'm going to look at you with disgust. That is a terrible Pokemon. What are you thinking? But here, I don't know, man. You want to say any of these are your favorite? I get it. Anything in this gen, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Pretty cool. Pretty great. Anything that really stands out here that I see? I don't know. I mean, again, I'm pretty high on this gen in general, so not many, you know, big changes. But the big thing that I was really excited to do after all of this was my top 30. This was a tough one to do, but I think it's going to be really cool to have this 30 in one place. Honestly, there's been a lot of shifting as time's gone on, but this is a really, really cool thing to finally have done. And without a further ado, getting into the actual list, it makes me so happy just looking at all these Pokemon. I honestly didn't realize that I would get a kick out of seeing this list like this, but I just love all these mons on this list. And it was tough to make some cuts, but I do think this is the accurate top 30. Now, there might be an inconsistency from the rankings of all these mons and then how they were ranked in the other list. I'd like quadruple check to make sure that wouldn't happen. It was really tough juggling all the different lists and all the different Pokemon, but at least for the top 10, I feel really confident. Mamoswine, absolutely my favorite. Machamp, absolutely my second favorite. Aegislash, love that thing to death. Decidueye, my favorite starter, fits there. Phalanx has jumped so far up. I love everything about that Pokemon. Reuniclus, it's just, that thing really represents so much with competitive and the New Orleans Pelipers and so much I do on YouTube. Phanpy, something that, I mean, I love elephants, right? It's something I've always loved, and that's become a bigger part of the channel as well. Rayquaza, my first mascot, the coolest shiny out there, one of the coolest legendaries in general, a giant freaking metal dinosaur, and the best early route Pokemon ever with Luxray. I'm so happy and confident with all those. You know, after that, it was kind of tough to rank all these Pokemon and, you know, make sure they were in the right spots. But I like went through the list multiple times trying to make sure that I was happy and confident where everything was. And I feel pretty good about this list. You know, the Pokemon that I feel a little bit of a stronger bond to, you know, you see in like the top 15, top 20, you know, Swinub. That I think is one of the cutest mons in general. Like whenever I think of like a Pokemon that I could have in real life, a Swinub just, it would be an adorable mon, like maybe a pet. It looks so cute. The pet, I feel like it would have fun expressions. I don't know. I think it's just such a cute little mon. Nidoking, that goes so far back. Elephants, just in real life, love them more than anything. Alakazam, another one that goes so far back. And Pelipper, just such a big, you know, part of everything I do online. And, you know, a reason I still love Pokemon is everything I do online. So I think that's really important. And after that, kind of just a hodgepodge of the different generations thrown in together. And I think it's funny to see like a Dunsparce and a Gligar here. Obviously, I don't think there's many other people in the world that have, you know, top 30s with those mons on them. But just ones that are really important to me. And I actually went through to look to see, you know, what the top 30 were in general. And we don't actually have the worst, you know, list for that. I mean, the fact that we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So almost 10 of my top 30 are actually in the top 30 of the world. So I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know if that just means I like very basic Pokemon everyone likes, or just I have good taste and I like the coolest mons. Because most of the Pokemon I have here, beyond Sylveon, I feel like would be more classified. People think the designs are just like really cool looking. Sylveon, obviously some people think it's cool, but it's it definitely is a lot different design wise than the other ones in this grouping. Like, I don't know, Aegislash and Decidueye and Rayquaza, you know, Luxray. I mean, it's like they're more darker, more menacing Pokemon, and Sylveon's all pink, white, bright with a smile, but man, that thing, absolute killer. Very fun to use competitively, and one of the best, if not the best, evolutions in general. But I think this is going to be the end of this video, and I really hope you guys did enjoy it. It took a little bit longer than I thought it would to make this, so if you could leave a like, you enjoyed it, it'd mean the world. And also, make sure you check out the video I did do on my second channel. You know, check that out. Check out the other series I'm doing there. Subscribe there, subscribe here. A lot of great content coming your way in the future. But that's enough talking for me. I'll see you guys in the next video, and until then, peace.